All right, guys and gals, fellow anglers, it's Tommy V. Tommy V reporting live from Grand Isle. I'm gonna show y'all some spots that are readily available here on the island. The first one, I'm going out, heading out towards going home to Baton Rouge, do some business and see the doctor. The first spot that you could try, and this would be on a warm day, not a day like today, okay? Remember what I told y'all? A day like today, it's 44 degrees, what I'm showing on the thermometer. You don't want to, I wouldn't try here unless you're just trying to catch redfish. This is Ellis Island. You can see the sign right there, Ellis Island Road. And the Ellis Island Bridge, you see the pelicans in there? They probably have some bait in there. Nice, cool bridge to fish off of. You can pull up right here and fish on the right side. But I fish these bridges when it's about 70 degrees. I don't fish them when it's cold like this. I fish the deep water. And keep this in mind. Don't forget this. Buy yourself a pair of hip boots or waders, because if the wind is not blowing in the direction you want, sometimes you're thrown against the wind. You can walk in the water, maybe walk on the other side. Just be careful not to sink in the marsh. But I always suggest having those waders, because a lot of guys are coming out here and not catching fish because they're not getting in the deep holes. So let's go to the next spot. And be careful on this road, because the people are traveling at a pretty good click. But that's the first bridge going from Grand Isle towards Fourchon. I'm headed back. Instead of coming into Grand Isle, I'm headed the other way. I'm going back. But that first bridge is like I said, it's hit and miss. Sometimes there's a lot of redfish there. So if you like to catch redfish, no problem. You can put a jig head on and a dead shrimp or live shrimp or minnow. Pretty easy to catch redfish on any given day at these spots. Now this is the second bridge, and I've caught a couple 6-pound fish here earlier, about 2 months ago. But as you can see, there's no water in this marsh, and this is what happens in the wintertime in Grand Isle. The marsh just goes, the wind blows out with north winds, and it goes almost dry. A lot of people used to fish like this spot right here. This is the second bridge going out. But look at the land. There's no water. So, of course, these fish are going to be in the deeper holes. So this is the second bridge. I like to fish it with a tide. Got to have a tide movement, but it's got to be like 70 degrees, because these trout are going to stay in these holes where the bait are. And you say, well, how you find the holes? There's only a few sand pits down this road. Okay, and the next one is going to be called, we call it the Forbidden Hole. And the reason that it was called the Forbidden Hole, because it used to be, it probably still is privately owned, but they gave up. I'm sorry, not the next stop. The next stop is the bridge. And look, this spot, they got several pits down here where you see cars parked. You can try there. Ask around, you know, the people that are fishing, if they catch them. They'll tell you. They're very, very friendly, and most people will tell you if they're catching fish. This is the third bridge, and one of my favorite in the spring, in the fall, and in the winter. If it warms up real nice for 70 degrees for about 3 or 4 days, those fish come out of those holes and they come in this bridge. And also a thing to look for, guys, is birds. See those pelicans diving right there? I'm gonna try to be safe right here. And there's a bunch of work cars right here pulling out all the trash out of the marsh from the storm. But you see the pelicans? They dive and there's bait there. So there could be some trout. Look, you might get lucky on a winter day. It's at 45 degrees and catch some specks in here. But in most cases, they're gonna be in the deeper spots, and it's only about 4 feet in that canal on these bridges today. But this is one of my favorite bridges. I like to fish this side. A lot of flounder, right close to the rocks. You get stuck a lot, so it's not easy. None of this is easy. You have to learn how to do it. It takes a lot of effort and time, okay? I'm gonna show you every spot that I fish. And sometimes it takes 5 spots, just like fishing on a boat, before you find the fish, right? So we're not going far here. We're going to the next spot is a big old culvert that goes with a bridge on it, and we just, of course, like simple people we are, we call it the culvert. Now this place is good when it's warmer in most cases, not so cold. This guy's right behind me, about to run over me, so I'm gonna try to pull over here so y'all can see it real good, so you can't say I didn't show you all the spots. This is the culvert. You're gonna see it and recognize it by these gates. It says no trespassing, private property. But you can still fish it from the road, on the side. See the current coming through that culvert? The other day I caught a load of them right here, but the water was way up. The water's way down right now. So there's not a lot of water in there. It almost goes dry over here. So there's not gonna be a lot of trout in here. You might get some redfish, and if you fish with some dead bait, you're gonna get a bunch of pinfish and small redfish that's gonna eat your bait up. So that's why I stay with plastic, because when I get a bite, it's usually something I can keep or something I can fight, something good stuff, you know? All right, we're gonna cruise off to the next spot. And the next spot is probably the biggest and the most popular place on a cold day like today. 44 degrees out in Grand Isle, that's pretty darn cold. The water's probably about 55 degrees. The water's probably 55, so the trout slow down. And when this happens, you gotta slow that bait way down. Yesterday, I caught some hammers. I was with my hip boots on and throwing that overcast swim bait real slow. I let it sink to the bottom. I count to about 8-10 seconds, let it fall to the bottom. And then I would barely move it. It's almost hard to do for a lot of people. They don't have the, they don't have the patience to slow it down that much. So I slow it down. Every once in a while, give it a little lift. They wanted a hard jerk the other day, but yesterday they didn't want no jerking. They just wanted a slow retrieve, and all of a sudden I would feel a little bump, and I'd reel down. Didn't even set the hook. Just reel down on them until I felt pressure, and I had them on. It took some skill, and it took a lot of touch and attention. You know, you have to pay attention to that mono. And I fish with mono. I don't fish with braid. The guys had braid on the side of me. I was skunking them. So that's another tip. I don't use braid. I go straight to the swim bait with my mono. But here, this is the forbidden hole, and it's not forbidden anymore. You're gonna see a lot of anglers down here. You can see all the boats. It's the only lake with that telephone post on the left side going back towards Fouchon. You got little kayaks like this guy. People fishing right off. See the hip boat? She can get in there a little bit and throw a longer cast. But I guarantee you these people caught fish here this morning, because look at the pelicans in there. You look for cormorants diving. See that cormorant right there? I don't know if y'all can see that. Let me pull over. You see that bird in there? That bird is not in there for no reason. That bird is in there because he's diving down for minnows and small. You see him dive down? That's what he's in there for. So if you see that, that tells you that there's bait in this water. And when there's bait, there's going to be fish. So this is the forbidden hole. There's rocks along the side over there. That's one of the most popular places right here. And the earlier the better right here. You see these cormorants in there? There's fish in there right now. And then when the wind's blowing to the south, you can fish these floating islands on the right side. It's real shallow, the water right here. But with a top water bait, when the wind's out to the south and it's warm, you can fish this side. And this is where I caught that limit the day before yesterday, was right behind this drag line. I don't go there often, but when it's cold like today, it's pretty deep in that. It's a sand pit with some oysters, and straight back there, it's pretty deep in that pond. But you gotta get the drop off, and you gotta get lucky like I did. But that's pretty much all the places that I fished. There's one other place right here. Sometimes this lake right here with the pilings in it, it's hard to get it. You gotta. It's not that deep, so that one's heads and tails. There's no water in that marsh. I mean, it's unbelievable. And there's one other great place. It is the cell tower, and you gotta have permission to fish there. There's a bunch of cars there. I'm not going to talk much about that because I don't want nobody getting in trouble and blaming me for fishing around that cell tower. But that's it. Tommy V reporting live. All the spots to fish. LA1, Grand Isle, Louisiana.